Why can't we just be satisfied? The person who loves you becomes background noise. The dream job becomes Tuesday. The food you once craved becomes the meal you barely taste. The things we wanted most are the things we stop seeing fastest. There is a name for this, and it has been killing contentment since before we had a word for it. In 1978, psychologists Philip Brickman, Dan Coates, and Ronnie Janoff-Bullman published a study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. They compared lottery winners with people who had not won and found something that should have shocked everyone. A year later, the winners were no happier than anyone else. The joy did not disappear. It was absorbed. Psychologists call this the hedonic treadmill. Every good thing you gain raises the floor you stand on. So the same gift that once felt like grace now feels like the baseline. You run, and the ground moves with you. Epicurus saw this 2,000 years before the lab did. In the letter to Menicius, he divided desires into the natural and necessary, the natural but unnecessary, and the empty ones like wealth and fame. His point was blunt. The empty desires are bottomless by design, so the man chasing them is never full. And in the Vatican sayings, he left the verdict. Nothing is enough for the man to whom enough is too little. Arthur Schopenhauer built an entire metaphysics on this hunger. In The World as Will and Representation, he argues that the deepest thing in us is the will, a blind, endless striving that can never rest. Every satisfaction is only the removal of a lack, so it dies the moment it arrives. As he wrote in the book's 57th section, life swings like a pendulum backward and forward between pain and boredom. You want, you get, you want again. The getting was never the point. The wanting is the machine. The Buddha named the same engine more precisely. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, his first sermon, he said the origin of suffering is tanha, craving, thirst, the reaching for more even as the thing is in your hands. And the third noble truth is the radical claim. When craving stops, suffering stops. Not because you finally got everything. Because you finally stopped needing the next thing to be the one that fixes you. Now the Eastern answer gets its strangest voice. In the Zhuangzi, chapter 17, Autumn Floods, the philosopher stands on the bridge over the Hao River with his friend Huizi. Look at the minnows, he says, swimming free. That is the joy of fish. Huizi, the logician, pounces. You are not a fish. How do you know? And Zhuangzi answers, you are not me. How do you know I do not know? The point is not biology. It is that joy is known from the inside, and the fish is satisfied with the water it swims in because it never decided it needed a different river. So here is the cruelty of it all. Adaptation does not spare the things that matter most. Research on gratitude, led by psychologist Robert Emmons, shows that people who deliberately notice what they have are measurably happier than people who simply have it. The beloved is not exempt from the treadmill. The person who loved you yesterday is today's furniture, unless you practice seeing them. The Stoics knew the trick. Seneca, in his letters, warned that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. And his prescription was rehearsal. Picture losing what you have, today, while you still have it. The practice has a name now. Negative visualization. The point is not pessimism. It is that loss makes the loved thing visible again. You do not appreciate the water until the well runs dry. So visit the dry well in your mind every morning. Satisfaction was never a destination. It is a way of attending to what is already here. Epicurus would say trim your desires. Schopenhauer would say the will cannot be fed, only understood. The Buddha would say watch the craving rise and let it pass. Zhuangzi would say the fish is happy, and so are you, when you stop comparing rivers. The person who loves you is not background noise. They only became that because you stopped looking. The treadmill does not have to win. You can step off. Not by getting more. By noticing what you already have, before the ground moves again.